Welcome back to Financial Myths and Misconception. Again, I'm your host for today, Angeli Mondonedo, and with your co-host.
I'm Anna Alipio. Hi, everyone.
So we've made it our mission to help Canadians navigate the financial landscape with confidence and clarity. So every Wednesday, we are here to explore a wide range of financial myths and misconceptions that can hold you back from achieving your financial goals. So get ready to challenge the status quo one myth at a time. Today's episode is a really hot topic, and I'm so glad we have a special guest here for today. We will talk about you don't need a real estate agent when buying your first home in Canada.
That's right. It's quite a topic as the market opens up for the spring. Angeli, many Canadians wonder, is it truly needed to have a realtor in the process of buying their first home? To go deeper, we invited a special guest with us, Jana Matteau, a realtor with many years of experience. Jana, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great, that's great. So, can you let our listeners know who you are and what you do exactly, Jen?
Yeah, okay. So my name is Jana Matteau. I am a realtor of 6 years with Remax Escarpment, and I focus actually on helping first-time home buyers. I've specialized in the process of trying to navigate what we seem to have, which is unaffordable housing in Canada, and getting people into their first home with the hope of it being not their forever home, but a long-term investment for real estate growth. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I try to make sure that I know that they're not going to stay in it forever, but that they're going to make money when they go to sell it so that they can then in turn use that towards buying their next home, which is hopefully their dream home.
That's exciting. It's like what do you call it? There's a saying that you hit two birds in one stone. Buy your
Yeah.
first home and an investment as well. That's great. And
Exactly.
so some first time buyers may believe that they can navigate the home buying process on their own without any assistance of a realtor. So Jana, what would you think or what can you share about the pros and cons of having you by their side when buying their first home?
Yeah. So obviously I'm biased. Like I work with first-time home buyers, so I want to say like, oh, I'm great. But I really did kind of reflect on what would be the advantages to what we would call self-representation. So a buyer would go forward and represent themselves in making a purchase. I would say if in the instance where that buyer is extremely self-educated, they are familiar with home values in the area, they've done their research, they're willing to take the initiative to go through and become more knowledgeable.
Mhm.
Um, that would be in one instance in which they could at least represent themselves to the same degree that, maybe an agent who does this professionally could. Similar to a hairdresser. We don't all necessarily need a hairdresser to cut our hair. We could cut our hair ourselves, but will it look good, right? And there are some people out there who can give great haircuts. So if you are a buyer who feels like you're willing to do the work and get the knowledge and the experience to research home values, that would be one way in which you could be successful. But you would
Mhm.
have to also back that up with some sort of contract experience. So I would say that you would need at least a lawyer.
Okay.
Just in the matter of like you are putting forward a purchase agreement. It's a lot of money on the table. How are you to know how to protect yourself?
Yeah.
How are you to write a good offer with conditions in it that you would need? And how are you to know to ask the right questions when it comes to writing the offer? So if you can back it up with a lawyer and you can do your own research with home values, and then even then, I would say, I think I would still want to make some calls to realtor friends of mine at least to figure out the kinds of questions that you need to be asking the seller to get the right information to make, a confident purchase.
Mhm.
In that instance, that would be a time in which you could be successful. I guess another pro would be if you are going to find something off market.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, I find that this is with family members or neighbors. So you get wind of your neighbor wants to sell their house. They have a specific price in mind. You feel that price is fair. You know, in that instance, I don't believe that a realtor would provide any help.
Just same as like when
If,
you buy a used car.
yeah, if, however, you backed it up with knowing homes values.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me would be the biggest con to not using a buyer's agent. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know that the price that you're paying is fair? How do you
That's
know
what was my wondering, Jenna. Is like, what is a fair price in the market today? Like,
yeah,
if you say
I will say
fair, what does that mean?
it's still subjective, but I have access to, you know, everything that's sold in the area for basically the end of time since we started digitalizing you know, the MLS. So being able to look back on the last 30, 60, 90, 120
Oh,
days
wow.
and looking at, you know, comparable homes and saying, okay, well, the average is this,
Mm-hmm.
this house is superior. Like it's basically like sort of it's an analysis just like an appraiser would do.
Mm.
And certain things hold more value than other things, and they change over time. So again,
100% sure.
yeah, if you're not paying attention to what's relevant. So for instance, a perfect example in the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
pools were very desirable. People
Oh.
were in, right? People were in lockdowns. They really wanted pools. And if you knew, you know, to get a pool installed at one point was over a 2-year waiting list. And the cost of in installing a pool over the pandemic tripled.
Triple, yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
wow.
So again, if you're going in to buy a house with a pool during that period of time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where is the value in what you're offering? The other thing to consider, if there's multiple offers, how are you handling that? So having somebody, I think, just like a hairdresser who cuts hair all day, all night, that's all they do. They
Mm.
know exactly sort of the ins and outs of what the best haircut is for you. So I'm going to know the ins and outs of what the best offer strategy is, depending on what scenario can come up. Real estate's just really, really unpredictable. So I would say that it's not going to hurt you ever if you have the right agent in your corner. So
Exactly.
that's where I think that's where I would say is like the biggest, it could be a pro and a con. I think if you have an agent who is more enticed by, you know, getting the deal done, is more enticed by the commission check, cares about just like, you know, blasting over your, you know, your purchase, then you're not getting somebody who's going to be honest and knowledgeable and work, you know, on your behalf. But if you do get somebody who is experienced and runs their business with integrity, and you've interviewed them and you feel that there is a reciprocal relationship of trust, then in that way, you're not ever going to be at a disadvantage by having somebody negotiating and advocating for you on what is going to be your largest purchase of your life. So um, I'm very pro buyer's agents.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cost you anything. The commission
Oh.
is built into the purchase price with the seller. I think a lot of people think that if you go to the listing agent directly, you might get a deal.
Yeah.
So you can cut out the buyer's agent, you'll get that commission. That might be true, but what I would say it's not though. Like you
Mm.
might feel like that's true. Like if something's listed for 1 million and you go to the listing agent and say, you know, can I get it for 950? And the
Mm-hmm.
listing agent says, okay, yes, we have a deal. You might say, oh, well, we cut out the buyer's agent. We saved 50 grand.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you didn't know what the conversation between the seller and the
Right.
listing agent and the seller's bottom line and what the house is actually valued at. Maybe there was one down the street that sold for 925
Yeah.
and they listed it too much, you know? So
Correct.
I think sometimes you hear these stories of people saying, well, I saved $50,000. And you're like, holy crap, I want to save 50 grand. And meanwhile, there's just not, it's not the whole story. There's not
It's
enough.
not the whole story.
Yeah. So I caution that. But I do feel like if there is something where it's like an off-market opportunity, uh,
Mm-hmm.
then potentially, you know, I'm just getting in the way, and I'm happy to advise and help just like, you know, a lawyer would. But that would be, I think, the only example where a buyer could benefit from not having a representative.
That is true. You provided some really compelling reasons, and it's we talked about on the first week of March actually about misconception of not having a professional on your side whenever you are at the process of first time home buyer. So how
Yeah,
important is having a financial advisor, a realtor, a lawyer? You've mentioned everything, and
yeah,
we always tell everyone about get to know the people you work with, like your professional that you want to work with, because it's not just a
yeah,
one-time transaction, right? It's going to be a
yeah.
long term. Since you mentioned about having a first home, right? I saw one of your posts that why your first home might suck, dot, 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 and why you should still get it. That was amazing. I love that one. Can you
I'm
tell us
glad.
more about that?
Yeah, that one was me speaking to what I like to call like the bougie first time home buyers.
The bougie
The
first time
bougie
home buyer.
ones. It's always the bougie ones, man.
They have
And
everything on the
sometimes,
checklist, right,
yeah,
Jana?
yeah. Well, but and sometimes they want you know, social media has really played up to this. They want the most Instagram worthy.
Of course.
And you're spending so much money. You want it to look really pretty. You want to show it off. There's a very natural you know, instinct to having this feeling. Like,
Mhm.
so you get a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old wanting to buy their first home. They've saved up all this money and they're like, I want the prettiest home. And sometimes what happens, there's two things. Sometimes
Not in their budget.
I feel like you're overpaying sometimes because you're paying for somebody else's renovations and hard work. And if you
Mhm.
have the budget for that, that's great. I often find a lot of people have champagne tastes and maybe a beer budget. So for what's out there in the market.
I love that one.
And so it's a matter of, I was speaking to them to say, you know, I see the bigger picture with
Mhm.
past clients, and I've seen their
Yeah.
experiences where they've put in a little bit of sweat equity, a little bit of love. They've nothing major, you know, paint, replacing kitchen appliances, flooring, bathrooms, things like small things that you can do over
Small details.
time.
Mhm.
And what they get from that is a lot more money when they go to sell. And if this home is not your forever home, which it isn't if you're a first time home buyer, it's a
Mhm.
starter home. The goal is, well, I'm going to be out in 5 years or 10 years or 3 years. How can I just capitalize on this asset? How do I make the most amount of money? And at the same time, the house still needs to work for you in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it needs to be the right price, the right monthly cost, the right location to your work, or the right number of bedrooms for your family structure.
Mhm.
If it checks all those boxes, but has purple walls and oak cabinets and linoleum flooring,
Let's be
um,
clear.
you know, those things can all be
Yeah.
changed. So I put that post out to speak directly to my bougie clients and say like, I promise you, even if like you're like, this house is kind of dated or it's just not working for me, if it checks off a good amount of the core important things, and I feel, this is what I always say to them, if I feel like I can sell it in 5 years or 10 years for a lot more,
Mhm.
um, then I push to say like that's the home that you want. And ultimately I try to say, I'm not going to put you into a house that you hate, but I'm also not going to put you in a house that I feel like I can't sell in 5 to 10 years because, one, selfishly, I want you to call me when you're ready to list. Right? I want your business for life.
Mhm.
And two, I just really believe in I really do want the best for these first time home buyers. I want you to make money. I want you to say at the end of the 5 or 10 years when we speak, you know, on it, it's like, yeah, that was a great buy. And I
Yeah.
didn't even
Mm,
really want it. It had, you
Yeah.
know, yellow whatever or wallpaper this, and I hated it, but we changed it and we loved it and
mm.
now we missed it. And I just think it's a part of like a really great story that some people when they're first getting started can't
Mhm.
see yet.
For sure. That's a very, very valid point.
That is great.
the pure post is still relatable until now, to be honest. That's
Yeah.
why I instantly look into that and read everything. And so it's so clear that the expertise and guidance of having a real estate agent or realtor can make a significant difference in your home buying process, especially if it's your first time, right, in Canada. So, Jana, we're almost done. And let all the listeners know how can they reach you or any socials you're active that you can let us know.
Yeah, I'm really big on Instagram. That's sort of the platform that I resonate with the most. And I think because I'm a millennial, so there's a lot of millennials on Instagram. So feel free to follow me there. It's just my first name dot Matteau and Co. So yeah, find me on Instagram, Jana Matteau and Co. And happy to sort of connect with anybody who's found this hopefully to be valuable.
That's amazing.
No,
Follow
it's so
Jana.
valuable, Jana. Thank you so much for being here and joining us for our LinkedIn Live. And also joining us for next week. Angeli, we have a home buyers event next week.
Yeah, I'm
That
super excited for
is
that too.
certainly very exciting. All right. Wednesday, March 27th. So 5 p.m. in Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So we will be having a bunch of guest speakers, really expert in their field. We have Jana again in Ontario, so Irene in Manitoba, Sammy or Samuel in Alberta, and Veronica in Quebec. And we will be also having a very special, important people for a mortgage specialist and a real estate lawyer. And also, since we'll be hosting, all the financial professional will be there. So see you for next week, March 27. It's a Wednesday. And again, thank you, Jana, for having us and coming and joining us for our LinkedIn Live. It's really knowledgeable, everything that you mentioned, really helpful for the first timers. And that's it
Yeah,
for
thank you.
us. We'll see you again next week.
Bye. Thank you, Jana. Bye.
Bye.